I only have one rule. Everyone fights, no one quits.
Welcome to WTC Squadcast, a podcast focusing on international matters, tournaments, communities, and the World Team Championship. The WTC is a proud partner of the T-Sports Network, Best Coast Pairings, and is sponsored by The Army Painter. If you'd like to support the podcast and the WTC, please visit our Patreon at www.patreon.com/WTC Squadcast. Now, let's get on with the show.
Hello everybody and welcome to the WTC Squadcast Into the Squad. Here in this podcast we get a deeper insight into the individual teams, how they form their events, how do they get to the event itself, and how they function in general, and also what do they want to see at the event. I'm Işık and today we have, Tony Chew or Anthony Chew?
Tony's fine.
Okay, see, I should have asked this before. This was one of the questions I was going to ask before, but that totally skipped me. So we had Tony Chew, the co-captain of one of the co-captains of England. Hi, Tony.
Hi, man. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on. So, some people already know, like you had been a staple in the England team for a while. So. People who have attended the NTC and WTC before would know you, but can you describe your history with the team and 40k a bit at the start, please?
God, I've been playing 40k since I was like 6 or 7, and I stumbled across a random Games Workshop store, and I'm heading closer to 40 now, so it's been a while.
Oh wow!
But WTC, this is why. Let's see, I started playing for the team in 2013? 2014 it was.
Would it be one of the Serbia events then?
That was so my first event was in Serbia.
That would be 2013, yeah.
Yeah, and then we came
no, I had to record it before them. Do you want me to tell you?
Well, we came third in that year.
No, you came third in 2014.
So it was 2013 wasn't me then. So the first time in Serbia, I wasn't on the team. The second one in 2014 I was, and when we came third, that was my first time in Serbia, first time doing a WTC event, and I wouldn't podium again until we go back to Serbia. So Serbia definitely is my favourite place.
Well, what that enters, like making the team for Sam and just getting a podium as well.
You know what? It's such a lovely place to visit. I'd never had reason, of course, to visit it before, and I enjoyed the visit both times. It was so easy to travel around. Hold on a second.
Oh, we are having technical issues.
Sorry, the boss just came in to shout at me because I woke up the baby with my laugh.
Okay.
He says, laughing. Oops. Sorry about that, Izzy.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, it's just a lovely part of the world to visit, and the weather is amazing. The spaces outside are lovely. The food was awesome. The venue's fantastic. That's something that's always a bit of an adventure when you go to WTC events. What the venue's going to be like, what the air conditioning is going to be like, how easy it's going to be to travel around. I mean, that's part of the romance of going on to the event, isn't it? Really, going and discovering these new places, and getting to play 40k along with it. But Serbia is definitely probably my favourite one.
Yeah, it's a good. Like I heard horror stories about some of the events, especially the 2015 one. I haven't been there. My first one was 2016, and I was like, there was 2015, and then there's the not infamous because of its aspects, but the Switzerland event is told like, oh, we had to people actually went camping to stay because everything was so expensive. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Okay, so
that was before me. Yeah, that was. Do you know what? We haven't hit a really expensive one. We just hit ones where it's just been weird or super hot, or the food's been strange, or the toilets have been like a latrine from a 1950s prison camp.
Look. the rumors that people shit in trash bags is entirely false. That's not true. And
I didn't bring that rumor up. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not saying it was saboteurs. Yes, it was outside saboteurs who were doing that.
Oh dear.
So
Well, we've started off this interview on a good tone. It's only uphill from here.
it's set a low expectations and on a high note.
Oh, yeah.
That should be fair. Okay, but how did you actually heard about the event then? It's so 25th.
So you know what? I went played a lot of 40k until I was like 18, 19. Went to uni, kind of dropped off it. Found it again after uni and kind of rediscovered my love of the game. Started to do tournaments again when I was down. I was living down south and working there. Got into a games club in Colchester in Essex, and there was a really good tournament scene there. So started doing local tournaments, then wider tournaments in the south. Then started travelling to it was the UK GT heats that were, because Games Workshop used to do its heats in a final format at Warhammer World. But they'd stopped that, so there was an independent circuit of guys who were organising heats and finals. So I started trying to get involved in those, get through to the finals. And along the way, the WTC, ETC was still going in the background, and I started to meet regular faces who were going to these things, and they talked about the DTC and WTC. And little things you could find online. I don't think the social media presence was anything like it is nowadays. It wasn't definitely not easy to find about. And then that infamous picture of the guy deploying his crew army to the space room while ago. Stuff like that was made you go, oh, that looks like a really interesting format. And I had no idea about the team events. So when I found out about it, I was like, right, okay, cool, I want to be involved. And I started just kind of chasing and harassing the people that I knew were involved in it. So at the time it was Josh was captain, but they had Rob Sims, Paul Burke, so the guys have been playing for a while, trying to get games against them or play them in tournaments and make sure I was doing well. Started to meet some of the other WTC regulars from different nations who are involved in the home nations, because obviously it's quite we've got England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, but lots of people cross over for lots of the bigger events across the UK. So there were lots of rubbing shoulders at that point. And my first year, it came down to me and another guy. He wanted to play the army that Josh was playing, and he wrote a snotty letter to Josh going, if I don't play the army, then you can't have me. So Josh was like, I'm not having you.
I don't think that threat works on the captain.
And then there was me going, I'll play anything, guys. I don't really mind. And then there was an addition change for that first event as well. I've been playing Ravenwing or White Scars Bikers all year, and suddenly the Ravenwing looked really good. And we were like on list submission day, we saw the Germans submit their list early, and they had Ravenwing, and Josh was like, oh, you've got this Ravenwing army you like? And I'm like, yes, I'll take Ravenwing. Boom. So I got to play my favourite army at the event. I think it was like the second or third highest score of that first year for us. And I got some really good games. The atmosphere was amazing, and that was it. I was hooked then, because it just, for me, the team events just add a whole different complexity to your 40k play.
Was that your first team event?
Yeah.
I guess starting diving on the deep end. Then it's time
yeah, I'd done a home nations like the April before, but it was the previous edition, and we were messing around with lists, and I took a Space Wolves. I took a Space Wolves drop pod list paired with a Tau buff commander that bodyguarded a Riptide and gave it all the buffs. That was the weird ass list that I was running at the time to try and. I was definitely the 8th list player by that point, where I was bottom of the pecking order for picking a codex, which is how I got the Ravenwing as well. But
7th edition was weird in that way. It was you could, I think it was 6th, right? Yeah, it was 6th, where you could ally Tau and Ultramarines in a single
Desperate
unit.
Allies, what was it? It was Desperate Allies, Deceitful
Allies of Convenience and
Allies of Convenience,
and Battle Brothers. Yeah, shout out the Alliance of Convenience podcast.
That's the one, yeah. I really should remember that's where that comes from.
Okay, so what were you expecting when you first went to ETC? I assume you talked with people and you had an idea, but did the actual event meet your expectations?
I think the guys, when they picked me for that first year, all thought that I was it was going to be a big step up, and I wasn't ready to go and play. And I did well. I won all but one of my games that I was meant to go into and get points out of. I played top players from the teams that we played and got points off them. Like at the time, I beat a Necron flyer list that I should have no
business beating,
but I beat no business beating, and I did, and I beat a Polish player with his Marine bike list that was better than mine on paper, but I got a bit of luck and I got like a 13-7. That kind of just played my list well enough. So from that side of it, I was really pleased. I'd been warned that people at WTC are really gaming and they're going to be really harsh on you, and they're really horrible. I had probably my best set of 6 games, even though a tough game where I got 20-0'd, it was still a laugh and I had fun. But I don't know. Maybe I was really lucky and I had played all nice guys. I'm sure everybody who goes to loads and loads of tournaments can say, I've played somebody once and they weren't fun to play, or they were dour at the table, or they didn't want to talk. My experience of WTC is everybody's so friendly, really open. Everybody's there on holiday to play 40k. Everybody's already excited they're on a holiday with their mates, and then they're playing 40k on top of it. The atmosphere was completely unlike anything I expected. It was really friendly, really open. All the different teams mingle, go for beers, hang out, come and check how you're going. It's taken that feeling you get sometimes at larger tournaments where you got 80 or 100 people and you know a few people and people just talk to anybody after games. It's taken that to another level, because then you've got years of people seeing people for events, catching up with people who make friends and travel to see each other in different countries. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a whole brotherhood of friendship behind the main event as well. So I loved it. I thought the atmosphere was great. It definitely exceeded my expectations. And we podiumed that for the year, came third, and I was chuffed. I was like, oh my god, we've done really well. We played some of the top teams and got results. So there was nothing about it that I didn't enjoy, really.
All right. So you were from the start, which is it, and I want to sort of stand on the point that people say it would be a hard event, like with hard players, like playing the gamey thing, but that is rarely the case. It's like maybe once every few years out of your 6 games that happens. It's not like it's even in the top tables where, let's say, England plays against Poland, it's usually a quite friendly game, and there is an understanding of, hey, even though we are competitive, like we're doing a competitive event, we are high end, like literally best of the world in this case, but we are not, like, there is an understanding of playing not just fair, but let's say gentlemanly, where if it's like, if the movement is clearly, let's say, meant to be within 6 inches, but the model is accidentally put into 6.1, it's not going to be an issue. It's going to, like, even if in most cases you don't even need to tell it, although telling it is better, obviously. But that's always it was a surprise for me as well. My first verse was 2016, although there was some, let's say, gamey-ish thing, but in the event was a magnificent success to my expectations, and it wasn't the best event I attended, because I was like, I got more involved, and then I started enjoying other things. But that's good to hear that it was just good from the start. And
I think I've been, let's see, 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 I've been, and then pretty much I can say one guy out of all of that time was this is a weird one. A guy when we were in, where was it? It was when we were in Prague.
2015.
Yeah, right. I was reaching to get flyers from a tray under the table, and a referee walked past and yellow carded him because he saw him turn some dice over when he'd done a move for a riptide, when, like, I wasn't looking. And I was like, oh, we were having a really good game up till then. That's like the weirdest. It was like he'd gone first, and it was his turn 2, and I was about to bring all my flyers on, and it made no difference. You know what I mean? Like, it was a rule set where he wasn't blocking me, he wasn't denying anything, he wasn't getting an objective, he wasn't doing any maelstrom cards. It was just a really weird, like, why did you do that for?
Yeah, it's like, why do you? It's
that's my only story I've got of somebody being a real pain to play.
Oh, okay, because it's I'm
People's
thinking,
experiences will differ, but like exactly like you say, I don't mind tough games. I've been absolutely smashed in some games. I've had games where the dice have just completely failed me. I've had it go the other way, where like I mean, last time we were out, we played Poland, and I played Duda. And Duda had a guard horde list against my Eldar Fires. He got to go first, which was really big, and he completely flooded the board. And he just needed to roll some average dice with his shooting. And he used my dice at one point, and he rolled like a double Destroying Punisher tank to try and kill a flyer that had 4 wounds left. And he took it from 4 to 2 wounds.
oh,
Dark Eldar Race Wing, and like he was just literally shouting, swearing. And our coach came over at the time and was going, "Is everything okay? Like, is your game okay?" I was like, "It's completely fine. He just really needs to get it off his chest." Because I was like, I'm trying not to laugh in his face because I think that'll be harsh. But his dice have just been absolutely rotten. Do you know what I mean? And afterwards, we laugh about it, and you can have a beer, and it's cool. And I played Australia last round. I got to play their Tau player, and he got bussed into my list. We had a good game, and it was we had a laugh about it, and he tried some silly stuff, and that's the kind of attitude. I think trying to. For some people, it's hard, isn't it? Because it's singles events. You can get that mentality of it's just you out for yourself. You're in a little box. People might not be honest, or people will be really harsh with you. So I've been to singles tournaments where you go, "What kind of game would you like?" Some people are like, "Oh, well, I don't want to. It's a really strict game. These are the rules I want to play by. It. No takebacks." I'm like, "Cool, fine. If that's the game you want to play." I think it's hard, isn't it? With WTC, we tried to go, "Look, come on. We're going to allow takebacks. We're going to allow you to be fair. You can't go back 3 turns and forget to do something, but be fair to your opponent." It's a different mindset. That does play into how we select the squad, because we're not arbitrary in who gets into Team England. And I think having the mindset and the character to come and play the right type of game is really important.
oh, okay. About that, which actually is a good segue to my next question. How does Team England function as a team? Like, how do you choose your teams? How do you choose your players? How do coaching and practice works?
We've tried loads of different systems.
You are one of the ancient teams, by the way. You only haven't attended the event since 2007 once, and so you are one of the only few, like the 5th team that has attended the most. So I assume there is a history of Team England.
So we've tried rankings. There was a point where there was the UK rankings, and we picked people off that, and that was an issue because the English player pool is big, and you'd get loads of people using a list just to get a place in the rankings, and then you'd get to a final 8, and you go, well, who plays what list? Who's going to be flexible? So that was tough. We've tried selecting people and having others vote. Yes, I want this person, I want that person, and that's led to some kind of sniping of I don't rate that guy or I don't like that guy. So it was the year that America won it. Was it 2015 or 16?
America won 2018.
18, okay. So they won it, and Josh did some legwork and went and talked to Sean and said, so they historically brought what we thought on paper were really strong squads. And then it hadn't done well because Sean said to Josh, and I'm sure this isn't private stuff, they hadn't gelled well together. They were picking, like, if you won a massive GT in the US, you were given a spot to play on the team. So in theory, you were picking strong players, and they tried to form a team around that. It didn't work, didn't gel well. So Sean went, okay, I'm going to pick me, 7 people that I think are going to work well together. And they won the event, and they smashed it that year. There wasn't a close win. They did really well. Yeah. And so we looked at that, and rankings can be manipulated, and we're not a big fan of that. Partial voting and things can lead to some issues. And so I suppose it's more like the football manager approach, in that we're going to put somebody at the top. Or this year it's myself and Josh, because it's been tough for the 2 years of lockdown. And we're going, right, we're the ones at the top. We're going to pick 6 other people that we think good enough to play and are going to gel well as a team. And the people we had over 25, 26 different applicants. So we cut that down to 16 this year. We did the same last year. Last year, we put them through their paces with TTS events, with some written tasks, with some homework to do while we're in lockdown.
Wait, you actually gave them homework, and you... Can you actually tell me about the homework?
Yeah, but it's just simple stuff like, okay, you've got to come up with a put forward or a prey list at the time. You've got to tell me what the role is. You've got to write me. It's got to be 2,000 points. Go. The Necron and Space Marine Codex both came out at the start of this edition, so we went right. Cool. You've got a month to come up with your best Space Marine and Necron list. We're going to put you in little working groups of 2 or 3. Go and figure out a list and then present it to us. So we made people talk to each other or work in groups of people they hadn't talked to before, and tried to get a gauge. That was when we were in lockdown the very first time, to try and gauge how they work together, how good the communication is, because we're not all, even though England isn't the greatest country in terms of size, we're not all around the corner local from each other. So Discord, Facebook, whatever it's going to be, WhatsApp, you need to have communications online, share ideas, play TTS games. Can't always meet up for games, regular practice weekends and things. That's certainly what we've found. So this year we're doing the same thing. We're down to 16. We're actually going to cut that in the next week or two. We've got 2 big weekend events coming up. We've got the next in the series of the Warhammer London Presents events coming up. So you've got the Coventry GT this weekend coming, and the weekend after that is the Northern Warlands GT, which is an 80-man major, and there's got some of the best players in the UK going to that. So we're going to give it those 2 weekends. Then we'll be announcing 2 more of the squad that we're going to pick, and then we'll be reducing that pool of 16 down. So there'll be 4 of us picked and 4 left. And we are then going to use the 2 that we've picked to support myself and Josh, and pick the next 4 in one big go. And then what we'd like to do is what we've historically done, I think is really important, is we try to take a coach. So somebody to do the coaching job at WTC is running the line, talking to the players, giving the feedback to the captains on where people are, who can maybe take a risk in their game or push, which is what you could argue is hard in 9th, but there you go. And then we like to take 1 or 2 extras just to get them to see the event, because as we talked about before, sometimes some people aren't quite ready gaming wise, or they just miss out because the list they're playing or because of flexibility or whatever it might be. But coming along really helps them see what the event's about, what they're trying to push for, and the style and way they need to maybe think about developing their list and their game and their approach to it. So hoping to bring a 10 to 11 man squad where we've got 8 players, a coach, a couple of extras to come and be involved with that. So it's quite a big group of us.
Indeed.
But that's when the year we won was the biggest group of us we brought. We brought the 2 non-players, we brought the coach, we brought the 8-man playing team, and the sense of camaraderie and the morale in the group was really awesome. And it was nice, and it had a mixture of veterans talking in different groups to others, because sometimes we do a lot of prep each evening for the games the next day, so sometimes myself and Josh can get a bit wrapped up in that, or we're looking at who we're going to pair, what we're going to do, doing practice pairings, running through the tables and the matrix, and it was nice to have a bigger pool of players to kind of chill out and hang out with each other. So I think that definitely helped contribute to our success the last time we were there.
Oh yeah, so that's so it's trying to maximize everything you have from as a squad then. So it's a team
game, yeah. Because what I think we're picking 8 players that we know can go out and win a big singles event or whatever in the UK, and could write a list that's top of the meta. But that's not the concern we're at. The next bit is, can we put you in tough situations, and can you play the game properly? And can you then do it with a smile on your face and come back to the team and not take it too much on the chin if the result goes against you? Can you pull yourself back around and get ready for the next game? Because that's really big as well. WTC is, I think it's more intense than people expect. It is game, and potentially if we look at shorter games now, we're going to get more games into the event. It's going to be really, really, really frantic at times.
Especially if you play singles as well. If you play singles, you are looking at least 12 games, and we actually plan to increase the tournament, the round count, to at least 7, maybe 8 on 3 days. Yeah. And it's so that actually, you're in a different city as well. It's not like I just came from home from a 15-minute drive. You're in a different city, so you have to plan everything beforehand. One thing that I want to ask, because this was a point, especially with the American team, do you make a conscious effort to get newer players, or do you want to keep the squad as experienced as possible and just keep the new guys in the reserve roles?
So my opinion, and I've said this many times before, is that we should have at least 1 new player every year. Now, last time out, we took Nick Nalavati.
Such a new player. Such a
new player.
At least new on Team England, so that I'll give you that.
I mean, he was a real bone of contention. Nick is amazing. Nick was a big part of us winning the event, contributed with our pairing, our tactics, and when we were there, was a great guy and played his list to perfection. But I think we had good UK players, but at the time when we were going to announce the team, we had that opportunity to pick him, and we were able to pick him within the rules and how it was set at the time. And when everybody moaned about it initially when they heard, we said, "Well, we won't take him if you don't want us to." But it kind of got left a bit for that year, didn't it? But he's right. I think for certain, we've actually written into our charter now. We have a charter of how we pick the team and how it should be done. Every year, the captain has to announce that he's going to stand again and has to open the position up for captaincy to others. It's only open to people who've been involved in the playing squad, but those in usually the last 3 years of events. So obviously we've had a couple of years off. There's still quite a big pool of players, and that's another reason why I think it's important to take extra players to home nations. So anybody who's represented England at any event. So we just did for example, the Battle of Britain teams event that Gaz Jones, the Wales captain, organised for England, Scotland, and Wales teams. Anybody who's represented England for that will have a vote next time we have a captain's vote. And is eligible to stand if they've played for the team. I think, coming back to it, I'll do that bit first. We do it that way because I think if you haven't been to WTC and you suddenly become the captain, you don't really know what you're stepping into. I think you've got to have been to the event to be the captain, to know what you're trying to pick a team for.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because there is, like, you can theoretically prepare just with the the pairings. This is how pairings work. This is the list count. This is you can sort of essentially prepare in theory, but in practice it's a whole different beast, and nobody actually understands. Even if you have attended, let's say, the LVO with 800 players or 1,000 players, it is not the same thing. It's a different team tournament. You have to consider not just yourself, because in a singles you don't really care about, does my player have diarrhea or did he drink too much last night? And now that has to be a concern as well. As at least for me as a captain, it is. It's like you have to keep an eye on the players' morales, and you need to make sure they don't just concede the match 0-20 if there is even a slight chance of getting that 1 point, and you have to essentially not babysit but coach, as in
it's exactly that. It's a bit of it is more like I said before, it's like that football manager, sports team manager role. It's like you're a player manager. You're playing a game most likely as a captain, but you have to support the players in that. Maybe you have to pick them up. Maybe they went into a bad matchup. I mean, it's not that myself and Josh have to get the best pairings when we do it. I just did the teams event, and I got some really naff pairings over the weekend, but I had some good results because some games just went my way, and other players I put into good pairings, and they got bad results. Ice didn't go their way. Maybe they played the game wrong. Maybe they misunderstood what that person's list did. I think as a captain, you have to kind of have an all-seeing knowledge of the meta, the players, the matrix, and I'm sure we'll talk about maybe later, but you win or lose rounds at the WTC based on your prep and your pairings, especially in ninth edition is so quick, the game. If you pick the wrong secondaries, you've probably lost the game. And we have had that so many times in our practices. People are still not realising that they pick that secondary they always pick. And the other person knows that, and their army's going to stop them scoring it.
Yeah,
that might changes their score.
You might have this is the big thing. It's less than it used to be, but different countries have very different perspectives. And let's say England against Finland. This is a hypothetical. I don't know if you ever even played with them before, but
you did, yeah. First round last WTC.
Okay, maybe Finland knows a specific thing about a mission where the entire England team had missed, and you just can't presume they play like England, or they play.
So, yeah, and that's it. So your original question was, do I believe we have to take a new player? And I think I stand by it. You have to take somebody new every year, because otherwise, we'll just lose the interest. We're not going to have 25 plus people applying who are, we think, good enough to try and apply with the top 16 that we can go. I mean, that's still a load of players. That's not including myself as captain or Josh, and like.
One might be even too little. Like maybe some, like I'm not suggesting this, but maybe some teams might think, okay, let's take 2 new players or 3. Like obviously, you don't want to take 8 new players.
So I mean, in terms of last time we went, true new players. Well, James Ramsey's never played for England before, and Matt Robertson had never played for England before. But they both attended WTC, and so they were new for England, but they had experience of the event, which is really important for us because then we could pick experienced players, but that were new to the team. And then Mike Porter was tearing it up on the UK tournament scene, and we took him, and he did really well. And we put him into. We did when we played America. We put him out. I think second defender. And we said to him the night before, we think Sean Naden's going to pick you because we think that looking at the list and the way we're playing it, he's going to jump at the chance to play your list with his. And we talked him through it. But for the fact that he couldn't roll a 3d6 charge with his bloodletters, he would have got more points out of the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He did really well at that, and that was probably one of his toughest. Really, he's a classic example of didn't really know much about WTC before, loved the event, loved the atmosphere, loved going and traveling and meeting everybody, loved the way that it's run and the way that people are and the sociability side of it. So Mike's probably our best example of newcomer to the WTC team, but who's really well known on the 40k scene in the UK. Just recently won the Goonhammer singles event. So really good player. Another one, and I think as the teams did well at the last event and came back with the gold, it's left us in an unenviable position, I suppose, in that we're going to have to tell some good players that there's not a space for you on the team.
You want to, like, it's usually if you win the event, you did something right. Your players did something right. So the instinct is to keep them and keep it rolling, essentially. But
it is, and it's tough, isn't it?
It is.
If do you just never take somebody new? Well, what will happen is people will go, well, it's a boys' club. We've had that leveled at us for years as England, especially because of the way we pick it. Because you can't go and win an event and get on the team, or go and just like go, I won this major, so I'll be on it, or I can achieve a certain amount of points and I've got a place. I have to meet you. I have to impress you. I have to make you think that I'm good enough at the game. Some people don't like that.
Yeah,
I mean, we try to make ourselves available as possible. We try to meet people at events. We try to hold practices. We try to go to events. Certainly this year, we just had a second child this year, so it's been a bit of a write-off for me because having a child at the start of tournament season was not good planning. But Josh is going to as many events as he can. I'm trying to get about. There's other members of the squad we're going to pick who will be out and about. And if you are listening to this and you are English and you'd like to be involved in the squad, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on social media, or you can walk up to one of us at an event and talk to us about it, because that is probably the best way.
All the England socials will be linked in the descriptions below, so don't worry about googling it.
What about the plugs?
Yeah, the plugs are necessary. The plugs are there.
But it's like you say, it's where would you go with players who are new and players who are experienced?
Yeah,
I think you could probably argue that one all day.
Because there isn't a perfect solution, and on top of that, it is like time doesn't stop, and player skill might change. There might be players that are better, and some players, even though let's say they are great players, they might simply stop spending that much time on 40k. This is, after all, still a hobby for most people. So that means that you are the champion for several tournaments, large tournaments, but it's like, you know what, I like this hobby, but I don't think I have time. I have personal obligations. Maybe you are having a second daughter. So maybe you don't get to spend that much time. And there is a imperfect balance that needs to be found, and you don't know where it is, and wherever you do, people might object, and you just simply, as a captain, you need to make a judgment on it and just say, you know what, this feels right for me, or in your case, for you and Josh, this feels right for us, and we'll just bite the bullet of it.
We like I said, we have tried all the other versions, and we've been through all the heartbreaks of having. We've taken people we've picked people for the playing team who've then turned out they don't. That's really nasty, I suppose, when you say that. But like, we've had people who we thought were really good at 40k, and then we've actually got to spend really lots of time with them, and they're not good at 40k. We've had to go, I don't know if you're going to be able to handle this. We've had somebody withdraw from the squad because they thought it was too much for them. We've had people go and just put them into game events, and they're just not done well. And ultimately, I think it's helped hone us. The point where, like I said, well, winning the event was fantastic. It was a dream to win the event. I've always wanted to do it. Amazing. Some people go, "Oh, you won it with a Merc, and it wasn't really an English team." And I'm like, "No WTC. We played all the top teams that year. No WTC team is going to give you a win for free. I don't care what you say. So if you can go and win all your games and get to be top of the pile, however you do it, best of luck to you. Congratulations." You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And I think we'll be really the guys we're going to pick. I think we've got a great squad of players to pick from this year. I think we'll have a really strong team.
Okay, so that actually that would be one of my future questions as well. Where do you think you'd see place, and you sort of want the top spot again, right?
We will be sad if we don't podium. There was a point where I think if the event had gone on last year, we'd have been like newly out of a lockdown with hardly any games, and I think we would have been just happy to get near it. But now, especially with the way we've got lots of players playing really well, and we're able to get games in. Yeah, last time we were there, we won the event. I think we know what it takes. We know the preparation that requires. I think we've got the players who travel to tournaments around Europe and the wider world. It's not just they stay in the UK and they just play each other. So I think we have the aspiration to go back. I suppose we'll have a target on our forehead because we're the people who won last time. So people are going to want to beat us. We're a scalp, aren't we, for other teams to go and beat us?
No, sad, very sad. Well,
So
it would be nice, and that's actually what is sort of one of my about the squad. I actually had this question as well. You mentioned that TTS helped a bit with practice. I also heard some good TTS players. I know this is a bit of a sidestep in conversation, but I heard that some good TTS players sort of, let's say, not perform as well enough when the event is in real life, because obviously you don't get to have the perfect understanding of the map, you don't get to move in a ghost form through things, and you don't get to say, like, do you think that will be an issue, like trying to get players from TTS? Or
we have some really good players who've come to us from being mostly TTS players, and I think their game knowledge is really strong. I think I've seen lots of players make silly mistakes on TTS that they wouldn't make at the table, and vice versa. I see people make mistakes at the table where they go, "Oh, but when I practice on TTS, it normally happens with the average dice, and I can see this coming, and I've got everything prepped." And like you say, real life is a bit different, isn't it? Sometimes it's a bit, "Oh, I completely got that wrong. I completely misgauged that." So TTS is a really useful tool, but I don't think it replaces practicing at the table. Gauging distances, eyeballing things. Me personally, I feel like my table sense is really good at 40k table, but on TTS I really struggle sometimes with remembering to block zones or to cover things. Do you know what I mean? So I actually think I'm worse on TTS than I am in real life.
There's also not just the gaming aspect. You are in a hall with hundreds of people. You are not in your literally home country. You're in a different country, and maybe the food isn't staying right, and you drank a few beers, you are enjoying yourself, and that might improve or actually hinder your performance. So
there's so many things. So last time out we had some people who were literally shaking with the pressure as we got to the last round, because it was like, oh my god, we could win. Like literally, dude, there's another guy, Sahil Samadadi, came with us when we went to Greece, and it was his first event when we brought, and he was playing the Wolf Star, and he literally ran to throw up before every game.
Wow!
With nerves, because he was like, I'm so nervous every game. And we were, do you know what I mean? Our coach was making sure to keep him hydrated, but he was like, so it's people and nerves. my job, I'm in front of people all the time. I'm speaking all the time. I'm performing. I'm playing. I don't have no. I don't really have any performance issues. Big halls, lots of people. It doesn't bother me. I could have a few beers. I'll be all right. But like you say, when it's your first event and all those other things on top, and you want to impress, and you might have had some bad games. You might, like, gosh, I think of some really experienced players of England who've been and lost the first 3 games out of 6. Nobody feels good after that. Because even if the team wins the round, you feel like you're not doing your bit.
Yeah, you're not contributing enough, and you're being a drag, and it's like
even if you go in, even if like there's a list in the meta that beats everything, and you're the one who has to play it 3 times in a row, you still want to bring something back, even if you understand that it's a bad game and you probably aren't going to bring points, and it means other people get the points and you win the round. It still isn't a nice feeling, is it?
And then at that point, you as a captain need to step in and essentially captain the mindset of the player, and not just
and that brings me back. Yeah, and that brings me back full circle, where England has been to events where it's done really well and the team's been really great, and England have been to events where the camaraderie's really fallen down and they've imploded a bit. And like in the time that I've been a part of the team, I've seen the year before when I joined up to now, I've seen all of those. It's really tough. But it is a game of toy soldiers at the end of the day. And you want that. You want it to be a nice feeling, win, lose or draw. So I think that's what we're trying to get the ethos instilled in the squad. Play tough games, play fair games, try and bring the points in, and we'll just see how we do.
Yeah, so I'll second that. It's you don't go there just to have fun, because that's sort of a silly. But you go there to enjoy yourself, even though it's stressful, even though it's nerve-wracking, or maybe you get too excited, and maybe you get a bit too angry at the dice or your opponent or whatever. But you go there because you want to have an experience where you can tell it in the future.
Yeah.
To anyone.
It's that experience is not alone. You go and, like we say, the socials in the evenings, that before and afterwards are great. The singles events, people talk. I think all of the teams, no matter whether they're an experienced nation or not, have the same issue with players that like that. What you said there is really interesting, because a lot of home nations players have that argument with each other about: am I going to the event to have fun, or am I going to the event to try and play to do well? That's a definite. I think there's definitely a divide with some players.
Yeah.
We want to go and do well. We want you to have fun while you're doing well. The focus is to do well.
Okay, that's why I've used especially mentioned enjoy, because fun and enjoy, it's a bit of a semantic difference, but you can enjoy while doing well as well. It might be a calculated cold game where you don't even really talk with your opponent, but you can enjoy the victory, you can enjoy the fun, as long as you feel accomplished, not just in the game aspect, but in the socials, in the drinking, in the game, whatever. As long as you can feel satisfied. I think if the England has, I don't really know the England team as a team. I know the players. I've been to dozens of tournaments at the moment where some of the English players were there.
Yeah.
But the England team seems to, at least in the last 2 years, 2018 and 19, because that's where I was able to feel more, from the organization perspective, seem to do a better job of being a team. But like I said, my history is only 4 years. So.
No, that I think that's fair. That's part of when I first went, I was just new bod, and then I asked Josh, could I start doing some vice captaincy stuff, and I just made that role my own. And then now we're co-captaining in it. I think we've got the best of both worlds, with experience and different approaches, different personalities and strengths. With whether it's putting an arm around a player, or do the list writing, or sitting somebody down to talk about what they need to do tactics wise, we've pretty much got that covered between the two of us. And then we bring the support players around that who really help as well.
Now you just need to actually form the team. So after the basics are done.
That is the hardest bit. I mean, we are going to pick 2 players, like I said, in the next couple of weeks that I think will probably come as no shock to anybody that we pick. And we've told the guys that's happening, and then the remaining 4.
Can we get Can we get a preview? Because I can't. This is not aired live. Maybe I can delay the airing until the time you want it to be aired. This is fine.
No, that's we can announce we are going to pick 2 experienced England players. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, this might be outdated. The podcast might be outdated, and we'll see. Okay, well, to wrap things up in general, like with this whole Team England and the WTC and the past and the future, I have a bonus question for you. Sure. Can you describe your ideal WTC? Not just Team England wise, not just event wise. Maybe it's just a untouchable feeling. Maybe it's more tangible things. Can you describe your ideal event for us?
I think we don't care where the WTC is. I just want it to take place. I want it to be somewhere where as many nations can come and get involved as possible. I think that is such a big thing. Ideally, it's an event in a location where, like I said, everybody can get there. It's not so prohibitively costly that you have to sleep in a tent for a week. But I think quality of terrain is something that we've managed and we've helped support with as teams and players. I say, generally it's monetarily, but it's we tried to support with for years when some have been involved. But I think now the nature of the game, I'd love to see some really top quality terrain. I think that WTC plans for that look amazing, which is really good. And then everything else comes after. I don't need a gaming mat to play on. I don't need a posh table as long as it'll hold the army and it'll hold the terrain on it. Great.
Look.
A space where we can be as a group, play our games, and have a fantastic atmosphere around it, I think is really important. I mean, you've probably seen the same thing that's been there, is it? 'Cause I've seen other game systems when we were part of the wider ETC struggle with really bad accusations of poor refereeing, of cheating, of do you know what I mean? That there was all sorts of scandals and things that come out on social media. That's never really happened in 40k. The atmosphere is amazing. The captains and the teams and the players always seem to gel really well. So I hope that it will continue for as long as it possibly can. I'd love to see that every year. I'd love to see it grow. I'd just love to see more and more teams get involved. That'd be my perfect WTC. I don't care where it is, as long as it keeps that atmosphere and it keeps that sense of gaming, but in an atmosphere of like a kind of friendship and fun and enjoyment, like you said. I think it's going to be great.
Okay, and that is the perfect answer, and that's a perfect ending for the podcast. Thank you for coming on.
No worries.
And you can find, and for our listeners, you can find everything you want about the Team England from the descriptions, where Team England social media and Tony Chew's personal OnlyFans account will be linked.
Safe for work, don't worry.
Boo. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody, and see you in the next episode.